Not all smells are created equal, and neither are our noses. Welcome to From the Vault of the MonellCenter. To understand smell, we first have to be able to measure it accurately. In this second part of a From the Vault Visiting Scientist presentation from 2021, Rockefeller University's Dr. Andreas Keller covers a major issue for traditional smell tests. If you rely on just one or two odor molecules, you're not measuring general olfactory ability. You're measuring a person's specific sensitivity to those particular chemicals. But Dr. Keller's solution is elegantly simple and deeply rooted in basic science. Blend together odor molecules. By creating complex mixtures, individuals begin to average out. Further, by using unfamiliar odors, Dr. Keller removes the bias of prior experience. This makes the test more equitable and reliable across cultures and communities. This is basic research achieving real-world impact, like Monell's rapid smell test Sentinel. Together, these efforts are reshaping how we think about smell, not as something subjective and unknowable, but something we could standardize, measure, and ultimately use to improve health. With that said, here's Dr. Andreas Keller.
So I'm assuming most people know that. That has been a research project of mine to look at the differences that people show in their sensitivity to specific odorants. And so this largely or partially is explained by genetic variability between people that changes the sensitivity to those specific odorants. And so for every odor molecule, you get a broad range of thresholds, and the correlation between those thresholds is relatively bad. So one paper that has claimed that the PEA, which smells like roses and it's commonly used for thresholds, and the threshold for butanol, which is also commonly used for threshold detection, have no significant correlation. So how sensitive you are to one does not predict how sensitive you are to the other. And that, of course, is bad if you want to find something out about the general functionality of the sense of smell. So one way around that, of course, would be to test several odors and then take an average of that or something. But then that takes a lot of time. So by mixing those odors together so that there will be a few odors in that mixture of 20 or 30 or 40, that one person ideally would average themselves out and lead to a more informative measure of the general olfactory sensitivity as opposed to the odor-specific sensitivity. And this is just shown here again from the paper. So we did the PEA threshold, the threshold to one of our mixture in a few subjects. And as you can see, many of those that were low performing at the PEA threshold were okay performing with the smell S, but then the one at the bottom, we would assume is truly a person with a smell problem, performs badly for both of them. So this is how these new tests solve the odor-specific insensitivity dependence of smell testing. And the prior olfactory experience, I already said that those smells that are being used are not familiar to anybody, but also really what makes the test independent on that is that it's not a identification or semantic test in any way, where you would have to assign word to an odor. And here, if you look at this example, so you have the smell of licorice, and you ask, what is that smell? So this is an example taken from a common odor identification test. And, you know, me as a German middle-aged man, if I wouldn't be a smell scientist, I would not know what wintergreen and turpentine smell like. Licorice is not a very popular candy food in many parts of the world. So it depends. You can fail at these tests with a perfect sense of smell if your odor experiences are different from the ones of the people who created that test. And so the test has been adopted to different countries to acknowledge different prior experiences with the smell. But the problem, of course, also exists within a country and across socioeconomic groups, people having more or less experience with smells, having a bigger or smaller vocabulary, and all those kind of things make these tests very much dependent on who's doing the test. And that's a problem, especially since this will lead to unreliable results in communities that have different or impoverished smell experiences. Okay, and this is just from the paper, just quickly showing that the UPSID, which again is a test that relies on odor identification, if it's not adapted to a different country, in this case Taiwan, Taiwanese people will do worse at it than American people who designed the questions in the test. And on the right, you see that for our test, there's no such problem. So this transports well between cultures, between generations, between different groups. So these are the two big advantages of the test we developed there. But of course, this is not a test. The way it was used in the research wouldn't be a test that can be sold to doctors. So this is a photo of what the test looked like when this research was done. So it's lots and lots and lots of bottles, triangles that people would sit at the computer, have to find the right triangle, open all three bottles, smell them, type in the result. And so this is not something that could be done in a doctor's office. So our next goal or next step to make this happen, make a clinical test for smell function happen, is to make this quick and easy and self-administered. And so to do that, I looked at a wide variety of different odor delivery, digital odor delivery devices. So the biggest time sink for the test is the opening and closing of the bottles. We want an odor to be delivered without people having to manually perform any labor, just like it would happen again for an eye exam or a hearing exam, where the stimulus just hits the eye or the ear and you get your response. So I looked at many different of those devices to have that test implemented. It has a lot of specific requirements. And what we ended up liking the best was a company called O-Widgets in England. So this is Emanuela Macchioni's company. She is or was a researcher too, and started building olfactometers and writing software for odor delivery. And they had a good device that hit all the spots we needed for our device. This was for the design of the device. And then RPT International, which is just a rapid prototyping company, was doing the prototyping of those devices. And so we went to several iterations. So this is what O-Widgets did when we first talked to them. So their market was to build odor delivery devices for virtual reality. So you would be in your virtual reality world with your helmet, and then at a distance, there would be an olfactometer that would shoot a very precise stream of air towards your nose area that would carry one of different smells. This technology was perfect for us, but of course we needed it to change. So a first version looked like this. So now you have all the channels that we need for our test together, but they are in little bottles with the liquid in it. So if you take this box and turn it upside down, everything's broken.